Welcome to Behavioral Health Today, a podcast brought to you by the Triad Network. This podcast is designed to share trending topics occurring within the world and our communities and bring them a behavioral and mental health perspective.
Welcome to Behavioral Health Today. I'm your host, Charlie Dixon. Today, I'm joined by Manami Yamamoto. Manami is a licensed marriage and family therapist and the founder and president of Blue Humming Therapy, a nonprofit mental health organization dedicated to promoting holistic well-being within diverse communities. With a focus on compassionate therapy for individuals, couples, and families, Manami is committed to creating a supportive, empathetic space for clients of all ages. Her therapeutic approach emphasizes cultivating a balanced lifestyle, integrating self and relationships, and nurturing inner guidance. Recognized globally in 2021, Manami brings extensive experience to her practice, helping individuals navigate their unique journeys towards self-awareness and fulfillment. We're excited to welcome Manami today to discuss her efforts to reduce mental health stigma in minority communities, make therapy more accessible through creative methods, and address barriers to support education and inclusivity in mental health care. Welcome to the show, Manami.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. So can you give us just a brief background and how you got into working in the nonprofit area and any private practice experience you have?
Yes, so I am in California and a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I've been working in a nonprofit organization and a private practice. So we have been working as a nonprofit for 8 years and focus on mental health support to diverse community and clients.
Nice. So what really inspired you to focus specifically on working with minority communities and then even reducing the stigma? I know in my field of mental health care, a lot of people that look like us don't necessarily seek out mental health care. And there's a lot of stigma around why we don't choose healthcare. So can you talk to us a little bit about why your focus is there?
Yes, so like you said, there is a very strong stigma in many communities.
Mhm.
So first, I actually start in a private practice, and I have seen minorities in there. But the one day, so I kind of feel, oh, so maybe more people cannot come to the therapy because of their stigma or their community restriction, cultural restriction.
Mhm.
Then eventually, I think so I can provide some support to individual, but those individuals need more support. So it's more like environmental restriction they have. So I formed a nonprofit organization and I try to help their environment as well. And then like a more like a community environmental mental health is so important for one individual person to be well. So that's the reason why like I have been working with private practice and a nonprofit, and I try to take down the stigma around there.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. The stigma isn't just in one individual person or even just one community. So trying to target that, you've got to seek out change on a larger scale and not just in each individual.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So along that, it seems like an importance is also placed on mental health accessibility, really even just getting to those services. Can you share some of the strategies that you guys have used to lower those barriers and make therapy more approachable for diverse groups?
Yes. So first thing, when people have a barrier to access to mental health, so we need an assessment. So what kind of barrier like they have? So that's the first step we need to do. And based on that, so we really need to use our creativity and flexibility
Hmm.
because in try to kind of access to them and then try to help their mental health. So yes, we have a standard mental health support, but it doesn't work sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's why I need to think about sometimes non-traditional approach or how we can be creative to provide the support they need. So we really think about how we can reach out to them and how we can provide the mental health support in their way. So that's the thing, like how I can take down the barrier.
Got you. Can you give some examples on maybe even some specific strategies that you guys have used?
Yes. So sometimes I use the non-traditional approach. It means non-verbal therapy. Because some people in in the community who experience very strong stigma, they are not trained to express their emotional words because of like cultural restrictions. Like some culture feel it's very shameful to talk about the emotion,
Mhm.
or some gender like men. So usually like gender wise, they are afraid to speak their emotion as well. So people are not feeling comfortable to express their feeling with the words, or sometimes they don't know how to do. So that's why
Absolutely.
kind of providing non-traditional approach, more like nonverbal therapy or more community-based approach. So make sure like people get too much attention for like individual, and then so they feel like a pressure to talk about their
Mhm.
emotion. So that's the I've use different type of approach. So what's the best way for them to feel safer to express their emotion?
That's awesome. I really appreciate that, you try to diversify and not just choose one specific strategy to work within a community. Because again, like you said, we both said it, you really do have to work within that community and try to really get the community on board before you're able to get a lot more individuals to participate as well.
Yes, and then like those communities are actually very unique. So
Hmm.
even like we share in the same culture sometimes, but based on the community, their needs is so different. Their barrier is different sometimes. So we really need to think about they are very unique, and then they live in a different situation.
Absolutely. And that's a very good point. Just because you've come from a similar cultural background, you may still have different things that are unique to you. So that's definitely important to address as well. It makes the job a bit harder, though, I'm sure.
Yes, a lot of work. Yes.
Absolutely. So you just mentioned a few of your non-traditional types of methods, and I also hear that you use expressive art, movement, and maybe even some somatic therapy. How do these creative approaches help individuals express their feelings and then also navigate their mental health challenges?
Yes, so this is kind of alternative way for them to express their feelings. So
Mhm.
express art therapy is a great way so they feel safer to express their feeling, but not with the words, with the arts. And sometimes they can express their voice, or art therapy itself is very healing for many people as well. So they kind of use those methods. And some people feel more comfortable to express their feeling with the body. So like a somatic therapy more focus on body, and then they kind of figure out like how they actually feel through the body. So yes, so many ways to use like those alternative approaches, and then oftentimes it's a little safer for the people who especially live in those strong stigma in the community.
Absolutely. And speaking of art therapy, do you ever experience or can you discuss a time when you've experienced someone that stigma towards art as well? Because a lot of times I've seen people be like, oh no, I'm not coloring or drawing or doing all that stuff. It's a little too, it's not for me. How do you work around that as a barrier?
Yes, I'm very flexible about this. So if people are not really feeling good with the art, so that's okay. We can find other modalities.
Sure.
The good thing about art is like art can be fun,
Hmm.
especially when we are doing it with the group.
Yes,
And the
absolutely.
express art therapy have a different type of art modalities, not just a drawing. So we can do crafting and movement, incorporated with the music. So it can be very creative. So we just give more option for them to express themselves. But if they really don't want to, that's okay. We can start from there if they feel comfortable.
Nice. I appreciate that the people have options. A lot of times therapy is a one size type of thing, like you have to do it this way, and there are not a lot of options. So I really appreciate that you guys are allowing people to express themselves how they see fit and not necessarily what fits and works best for the agency.
Yes. So sometimes like our mental health is more like a black and white, so you get the support
Mhm.
or not. But
Right,
it's
right.
yes, but it's almost like we telling the person like who doesn't have a car, but ask them to come to my home by driving 1,000 miles. So
Thanks.
yes, so that's why like really try to find a way like they can get some support, So maybe like sending a letter or phone call or find a share ride or meet in the middle way. So that's why, like, not just a black and white. So we really need to think about like how we can actually support them in their way.
Absolutely. Really stepping outside of that box, meeting clients where they are. As a social worker, that's one of our main tenets of social
Yes,
work is
that's
really
your
being able to meet
expert.
clients where they are. So it's all of this is really speaking to my heart as a social worker. It's awesome. It is.
Yes.
So the stigma that we've been discussing, surrounding mental health, it really is very prevalent in certain communities. How do you approach working with clients who may have grown up in environments where mental health support wasn't discussed or encouraged at all, or even bashed? So how do you really work within those clients?
Yeah, I actually grew up in that kind of community and the culture. And then it's really taboo to talk about mental health stuff. Yes. So how I support them is try to find the best way for them, like how they can be aware of like, they need a mental health or how they can receive the mental health support. So bringing the awareness is the one part like we need to think about how we can, face to those stigma in the communities. And then through my working experience, so psychoeducation is a little safer for them because when we say like psychotherapy, so many people have a resistance. But education is a little safer for them. They can still learn about the mental health, increase their awareness. But this is more like education form, not the therapies. So kind of take that avenue and then so let them like, get used to around the mental health. And then eventually they kind of want to focus on more individual needs. Then when they start thinking that way, so this is the time we kind of sharing about the opportunity of psychotherapy, more individual care. So we need steps.
It really sounds like what we really have to do is almost change the parental voice. I know a lot of times growing up, you hear things over and over from your parents, and then it becomes your inner voice or what you hear being said or what you find to be important. So, can you tell us more about how to adjust that internalized voice and how you work with clients to transform what they've heard their entire life?
Yes. So this is kind of like I have been working with my clients in the communities for a couple of years because through my experience and through my working experience, so we have a lot of judgmental voice. So I
Mhm.
call it like a critical parent voice.
Yes.
But yes, but what we really need is we need a voice of like love and compassion and care. So it's more like a nurturing parent voice.
Mhm.
But so many people don't have it. And we try to seek those voices at the outside, but sometimes people cannot find it.
Mhm.
So that's why I really like I try to help my clients in the community to develop that nurturing parent voice inside, and they help their inner child to be free, authentic, and a more like happy life. So that's the kind of like I have been working with my communities.
We'll be right back after word from our sponsor.
Continuing education is both a requirement and a learning opportunity, but finding the right CE provider can be challenging. AATBS, a triad company, offers continuing education for psychologists, social workers, marriage and family therapists, counselors, and behavior analysts. CE courses are available both individually and as part of our new All Access Pass. All Access Pass provides a library of over 250 unique courses. That's more than 800 hours of CEs, with new courses being added every month. As a special offer, Behavioral Health Today listeners can save 15% on CE purchases. Visit us at aatbs.com/BHT and enter promo code BHT15 during checkout. That's aatbs.com/BHT. Check out our library and check off your CE requirements today.
Very nice. Very nice. Because like you said, like you mentioned it, the voice does tend to be more of a critical one and not necessarily of a nurturing one. So it does take a lot of reframing, maybe even some levels of self-compassion to really switch what that voice sounds like in our heads.
Yes. And then that's very interesting because like I have been focused on helping diverse clients and communities. And then it's very unique to help like those diverse clients and communities. But at the same time, so I find like in more universal needs. So which is love, compassion, care. So that's why, I think maybe everybody can develop their nurturing parent voice inside to make sure they can help their inner child to be authentic.
Absolutely. Like that level of change, of course, works within the individual, but then it also then gets passed down to children. How do you work with the people that you educate? How do you help them understand the importance of mental health support for not just themselves, but for their children? Because again, that is changing maybe even generational curses and traumas.
And as I have a good experience working with the mother and then child because I working with the schools as well. So yeah, so I see, a lot of mother child over there. And then many people, many parents, so they try to be really good parents,
Mhm.
right? And then so because they believe so it's for their children. But, it's clinical understanding. It's more like when they have those like a nurturing parent voice or they know how to love and kind to themselves, then they can model to their children.
Mm.
So that's why I'm telling them. So you are already great parents. So you're doing great for your children already. But just like try to be nice and kind and care yourself. And that's like a naturally so you can model to your children. So that's the
Absolutely.
thing I have been talking with them.
Nice, nice. And it definitely gets passed down, just like that critical voice does, that nurturing voice does as well. And so you mentioned that you've worked in areas like San Francisco's Tenderloin area, where the population faces challenges related to immigration, low socioeconomic status, and limited access to healthcare. Can you share more about that environment in which the families that you work with are living in, and maybe even some success stories from that area and how you overcame the community's resistance to mental health services?
Yes. So that community is a very challenging community because of socioeconomic status or many people immigrant and sometimes like they don't speak English as well. And then they also need to adjust themselves to the new culture. So it's really hard. And they struggle a lot because they're coming from different countries, but they need to raise the kids in here. So, very difficult to think about their daily life plus the education for children. So I see those communities are very vulnerable communities. And what we need for those vulnerable community is really need to understand their position. So we try to be there for them. We try to listen to them. We try to understand them. So before like a jump to provide something for them. So we really need to have a compassion for their situation and understanding vulnerability. And starting from there, so we kind of build up the relationship together. And then I think my biggest success is kind of like a try to work with the communities and the people in the communities to develop mental health support system for themselves. So
Absolutely.
it's not the traditional standard mental health care, but they can create their way. So what is the best mental health support system for the communities? So it means I need to work with the people over there, community and organization over there. So again, everybody is unique, but this is kind of like a collaboration, like we, develop the best mental health support system for the community. So that's the biggest one.
Absolutely. And I would imagine, though, going into communities, into these diverse communities where people may not necessarily accept outsiders, that would definitely be difficult for your organization as well. Like, how do you get that started? How do you start that safe place for people? And also get the buy in from not just the individuals, but from the community, those other organizations. How do you find that place and that small little crack that you can dig into to kind of create that safe place? Where does it start?
So I think as the outsider, so we have both like a benefit and then challenging. So as the outsider, some community it's so bondy, so closed off, so they don't welcome the
Yeah.
outsider. And so I understand my experience in the Tenderloin area. So it's been like 3 years to get in that community.
Okay.
Yes, so
Yep.
need a persistence. But good about the outsider is I can bring like a different insight to the community. And sometimes people feel more comfortable to talk to outsider because within the community, they have a judgment. They feel
Mhm.
shame sometimes.
Mhm.
So they can actually have an advantage and a disadvantage to have the outsider. And I use that. I understand their resistance, and that's normal and need a patience. At the same time, as the outsider, I believe I can provide something for them. So that's the mindset when I go to the community.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. That's the whole time I was thinking like she's got to have a certain level of patience, endurance, dedication to this type of work, because I know that it cannot be easy to walk into areas that, you know, may not know nothing about, or the people don't know anything about you, and expect for them to understand you, support the movement that you're trying to make there. So we just discussed one of the main barriers that prevent people from seeking mental health support and accessing public health systems, as, you know, accessing those and being accepting of the outsider. What are some of the other barriers that you have experienced, and how can public health systems address those barriers?
That's a big topic.
It is. It is. We could talk
Yes.
for an hour about that.
Yes. Yeah, it was a public health system. Maybe that's really big. So I might like, focus on mental health system.
Mhm.
And then I think we should be proud of like what we have achieved around the mental health system. Because if you see the country outside of US, you will really know US mental health system is really advanced like
Okay.
compared to like some Asian countries. So maybe like a US mental health system is advanced like a 50, 60 years,
Oh,
my
wow. Okay.
assumption. Yeah. So
Okay.
we should be proud of like how much we really focus on develop that mental health support system for the society. And then because there is still like in a lot of minority underserved communities, and then we kind of start understanding like a traditional mental health support system is not always working for them. So
Mhm.
now like we should think about so how we really can provide the support for those clients and communities, and how we can be creative and then more like flexible, and how we can customize our support for those communities. So I think that's the stage two. So next step.
Absolutely. Nice. Nice. Okay. And so you mentioned earlier that you work within the school systems as well to provide services for children through teachers and maybe even accessing their parents as well. How do you think schools can play a more active role in addressing mental health issues early on for both students and their parents?
Yeah, when I work with the people at the school, so my first message is everybody needs to be cared. So teachers, parents really try to support the children, and then that's great. But they also deserve to be cared because that's a lot of responsibility at the school. And then usually the teachers and parents are really busy to raise the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So understanding like everybody needs to be cared. And from there, so kind of try to develop the community. Yes, I care you, but I will be cared. So that's like a supportive environment in there. So school is not just like providing the service. School is also be cared in the society. And then kind of creating that environment, children can learn those environment from the school. And then they feel okay. So yes, we can create that kind of environment in the future. So that's a kind of like a learning process.
Absolutely. It is. And then again, you've got to try to get the buy-in then from the school administration and teachers. So it does, I'm sure, take a lot of patience, dedication, continued into the school system for you to be able to achieve every goal that you have.
Yes, because usually, as you can experience, like, schools and teachers are so burned out.
Yes.
They are so busy, they're so tiring. So that's why they also need to be cared. But it's okay. School community needs to be cared. And then that's good. We can create that kind of environment.
Nice. And a lot of what we're discussing today is an inclusive look at mental health. And so, what do you see as the key to creating more inclusive mental health environments that welcome individuals from all walks of life, especially for those who are often marginalized?
Yes. So when I think about more inclusive care, so again, like we should think about how we can provide the support in their way. So maybe not perfect sometimes, and that's okay. How we can help them to feel better. So that's the thing, like we should ask, question to ourselves as a clinician. And then from there, so we can develop their mental health support system. So yeah, it's not like, 0 or 100. We need some small step to develop those system, but
Yep.
that's okay. So that's the way like we really try to offer like a equal support for everyone in the future.
Very nice. Very nice. So, looking ahead, what types of changes or improvements would you like to see in the mental health system, the public health system, when it comes to access and stigma reduction?
Yes, so that's a big topic and it's been challenging for a while, right?
Yeah.
I think more collaboration is necessary. Per se, like, I am clinician, but I know like when we really try to support somebody, not just a clinician, we need to collaborate with so many people,
Right.
like a community organization or like a social worker, healthcare
Mhm.
staff, and teachers, parents. So more collaboration and the sharing the importance of the mental health is the key. So I was working with that community, and then so everybody understand the importance of mental health, and everybody can contribute to that in a different way. But I think sharing the goal is really key to take down the stigma in that community.
Absolutely. And I agree. Earlier, we were talking about education, more the psychoeducation being almost the door to the psychotherapy. Because I agree with you that being able to educate people tend to adjust to that much easier than just coming out and saying, hey, you need therapy. It does not always come across as easy as saying, let me tell you about this, or let me educate you more on what you may see in your community. It makes it a bit more of a friendly access to services.
Yes. And then like at school, it's a good way so we can do that psychoeducation in a fun
Mhm.
way. So yeah, with the children, as a teacher and using arts or more thematic. And then so yeah, we can make it fun way, not necessarily like academic education.
Right, right,
Yes.
right. Yes, yes, yeah. Because education does not necessarily just mean we're sitting down with books and a whiteboard and I'm writing things down. Education is absolutely, and honestly, I believe that with younger children, being able to do more fun things, they definitely absorb things a bit easier and they process it a bit better when it does come across as a fun activity versus let me teach you something. Let's read a
Right.
story about it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, finally, what advice would you give to individuals who are hesitant to seek mental health support due to stigma, especially those from underrepresented or immigrant communities?
Yes. So access to mental health is very challenging again because of stigma, or sometimes people cannot afford for that, or parents don't agree, or their community doesn't agree.
Mhm.
So that's why the one way I can give some suggestion to the listener is maybe they can start thinking what make them feel better, what make them feel good. And starting from there, maybe sometimes people think, oh, talk to somebody is feeling good, or doing some arts is good. And they can think about what make them feel better. And then when they keep listening to their inner voice, and eventually so they can like, seeking some mental health support. So they don't really think they access to mental health, but they are taking care of themselves. They have more awareness around the importance of mental health. So that's the thing I really want to give some advice for the listeners.
Absolutely. And one thing that you just mentioned is you mentioned asking, and actually you said it a few times, that people should do what feels good to them. What type of advice would you give to listeners or even clinicians that are working with clients that don't necessarily know what feels good to them? How do you find out what feels good, what works?
Yeah. So sometimes, we don't feel good, and that's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to be present, and that's okay. So again, like we have a lot of criticism, critical parent voice.
Hmm.
Yeah, we should
Hmm.
be do that, how we should do. So
Right.
yes,
Right.
normal. Sometimes like we don't feel good. Sometimes, situation doesn't change. and that's okay. We just acknowledge that and then try to be there for them and be patient with your own emotion as well. And if you need, you can talk to somebody, do some arts. So not necessarily you need to do something. We are too much solution focused sometimes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Can you tell us more about the name of your community organization, and then how can listeners get involved with it? How can they learn more about your programs and reach out for support?
Yes, so our organization name is Blue Humming Therapy. It's in California. And then so we supporting very diverse kinds of communities, and we provide psychotherapy, psychoeducation, and mental health consultation to the organization. So if people are interested, so they can come to our website, bluehummingtherapy.org. And then, so we have some SNS as well, so they can see our information over there too. I have my personal website as well, so if somebody interested, welcome to come to my website as well.
Nice, nice. And are you guys on social media? Because, that is the way to reach the people these days.
Oh yeah, our website, yes.
Nice. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you again so much, Manami, for speaking with us today. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you so much.
And thank you to our listeners for taking the time to join us. Before you go, we'd love your help. Please leave a review and share the podcast with a friend. By spreading the word, you help us grow and reach more people, allowing others to discover the valuable insights shared in each episode. Thank you for being such an important part of the Behavioral Health Today community. As always, the resources for this episode and an archive of all of our other episodes can be found on our webpage at triadhq.com/BHT. And we look forward to having you back with us next time on Behavioral Health Today.
We appreciate all the support from our community, and if you like our show, one of the best ways you can support it is by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review. Behavioral Health Today is a podcast part of the Triad Behavioral Health Network, all rights reserved.